Where can you pay over 100% annual interest legally? Wow, and I thought those types of interest rates were reserved for organized crime loaning money to errant gamblers. You know, loan sharks. Well, it turns out that loan sharks aren't the only ones allowed to charge those outrageous interest rates. Under most state laws, lenders calling themselves payday loans or title loans are legally allowed to charge borrowers these rates, and the borrowers may just be your next-door neighbor. Welcome to this Safe Insight for July 22nd, 2014. The fact is, Americans have spent decades living in a culture that reinforces the notion that you can have anything you want and you can have it now. You just need to find a good creditor. You remember the old TV ad, a guy sitting on a long tractor, fake smile and all, saying, "I have a great house, great toys, great furniture, all I could ever want." And then staring directly into the camera, he says, "How am I going to pay for this?" Or those commercials that said, "For everything else, there's Visa." Now look, we've all done it, dipped a little too cavalierly into our creditor accounts, and then sometimes when they get to be backed up too much, well, we borrow new money to pay the bad money off, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. There are two issues here. First, how do we stop doing this cycle of servitude? And second, how do we get out of the hole we've dug ourselves into? Sadly, the answer to the first is that you just, stop. To be straight, it's a little like an alcoholic saying to themselves, "Okay, I can go just today without drinking. One day at a time." Well, spending is like that. That $2 cup of coffee, really, that dining out experience, all being done when we're borrowing money at 20% interest or more? Seriously? Most intelligent people will realize that before you spend money on luxuries, you should pay off the very expensive borrowed money. But few do it. Demands of the home, school, kids, and all of the other things prevent us from doing the right thing. But do the right thing we must, one day at a time, or else we'll end up with the second question: how do we get out of this hole we've dug? The short answer to that is also, one day at a time, but there are some keys. An often thought of approach, sometimes called a secret, is to learn from a snowball. One flake grows to become very large. Well, under this method, create a listing of all of your creditors and then determine either the minimum payment you must make to satisfy them or the maximum you can afford to pay each month towards your debt. Order your debts by the smallest first. The magic here is that by paying the same amount each month, but paying off the smaller ones first, you'll snowball your money to more rapidly pay off your larger debts, assuming that you keep the amount of money being paid each month to the same amount. If you're really in a hole, you can always file a bankruptcy, but that's a relatively extreme measure and will potentially hurt you long after the problem is over. You can only file a bankruptcy once every 7 years. It could prevent you from being hired for certain jobs, and you certainly will pay higher interest rates on loans for houses or cars in the future, even if you can even get one. So 2 key points: quit spending more than you earn, and number 2, create a plan to pay off your debts once and for all. And once you've done that, don't go into that space again.